Hello class, this is Dr. Mu-tor Flood. This video is going to be on how to conduct the independent samples t-test assignment. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to open up my IBM SPSS statistics by double clicking on this icon right here so that the program can open up and run. What I'm going to see first is probably going to be what's called a splash page, this thing right here. So I'm just going to press an X to close that out, or I can close it right here. Now when I'm on SPSS, in order to put in my data, I have and analyze stuff, I have two windows. I have a variable view and I have a data view, and I can toggle back and forth between these by pressing on them right here. So I'm going to press onto variable view so that I could name my variables and put in information about those variables. So before I do that, I'm going to read what this assignment is about. All right, the sample problem, and you could pull that up on the different links in Canvas. So this is the sample problem. The psychology department at Rock Haven University conducted a study to determine the effectiveness of an integrated statistics/experimental methods course as opposed to the traditional method of taking the two courses separately. It was hypothesized that the students taking the integrated course would conduct better quality, meaning more controlled and statistically sound research projects than students in the traditional courses, as a result of their integrated training. To determine whether there actually was a difference in student performance as a result of integrated versus traditional training, the final research projects of 20 students from an integrated course and 20 students from a traditional course were evaluated. Their scores are listed here. And it says for condition 1, well, that equals those who are in the integrated course, and the number 2 represents the condition where students were in the traditional course. And so as you can see here, there are a total of 40 students, and 20 of those students are in the integrated course and 20 of those students are in the traditional course. And we have scored each of those students on their on their final research projects. So this is the score they received in their final research project. All right, and so if we move down, in this problem we are testing the null hypothesis that there is no difference in student performance as a result of the integrated versus traditional courses. That is, the mean difference between the conditions in the population from which the sample was drawn is 0. The alternative hypothesis reflects the psychology department's belief that the population means for the two groups of students are not equal. That is, the belief that course format had some kind of effect on quality of research projects. So that's the sample problem. So I'm going to create 3 variables so that we can start analyzing this problem. All right. The first variable, I'm going to click into this box right here under name, and I'm going to put in student with a capital S. All right. I'm going to press create student, and then I'm going to press enter so they can move to row 2 under name. And I'm going to put COND, which abbreviates for condition. All right. And with a capital C. I am then going to press enter again to move down to row 3 under name, and I'm going to put the word score with a capital S. Then I'm going to press enter again. And what I'm going to do for each of these variables that I created, I'm going to change the decimals to 0. So I'm going to move over to decimals, and I'm going to click into the boxes, and I'm going to choose the down arrow to change the decimal places to 0. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into, press into the box right under the column called label. And label is going to help me to label what these variables mean. All right. Sometimes when you have a lot of variables, it's much easier to put something in the label so you know exactly what each of your variables actually mean instead of the abbreviated version you use when you're naming your variables. So let's do that. So for student, the label means student identification. Student identification. All right. If I go to the next box for condition, well, condition, all right, means the type of course given. Type of course given. If I press enter again, the score represents the score on the research project. All right. So those are the labels. All right. And I'm going to move then to the column that's titled, well, no. Well, that's titled measure. And I'm going to change student to a nominal variable. I'm going to change condition to a nominal variable. And I'm going to change score to a scale variable. All right, then I'm going to come back, and where it says the column called values, I'm going to put what the values are for the condition or the type of course given. All right, so let's do that. So I'm going to press into this box right here, and then I'm going to press these three dots right here. And so for value, all right, I'm going to put the number 1 in here, and then the label for value 1, all right, is going to be the integrated course. And then I'm going to press add. So 1 equals the integrated course. Then I'm going to put for value 2, and the label for 2 is going to be traditional course. And then I'm going to press add. All right, now that I have that, I'm going to press OK. And now SPSS knows that when I write the number 1, well, the number 1 represents the integrated course, and number 2 represents the traditional course. All right. All right. And so once I do all this, I am going to press on data view, and I'm going to put my scores in. Now, I'm not going to put the scores that are on your sample problem. I'm going to put in my own scores. All right. So I'm going to put in essentially fake scores for this assignment. This is just an example. So for student, I'm going to put that there are 5 students. All right. For condition, I'm going to put in 1, 1, 2, 2, 2. So there were 2 people, 2 students who were in the integrated course, and 3 students who were in the traditional course. For score, the first one I'm going to put is 67, then 55, then let's say 98, and let's say 76, and 88. And once again, what you should have on yours, you should have 40 students, all right, 20 of which are condition 1, the other 20 are condition 2, and you should have scores for all the 40 students. All right, that's what you should have based off this particular sample problem. This particular sample problem right here. All right, now once you have that, well, what you can do now is if you wanted to see what you wrote for condition, where which one equals what, 1 equals what, 2 equals what, you can press on this right here. This is a toggle button for the values. So now you can see what those values actually mean, all right, when you press on this button right here. And so I'm going to keep it like this, all right, and then now I'm going to analyze the data. I'm going to run an independent samples t-test. So to run an independent samples t-test, I'm going to go to Analyze. I'm going to scroll down to Compare Means, and then I'm going to choose the independent samples t-test. And that's going to bring up this dialog box here. All right. And I'm going to move the score on the research project. All right. I'm going to move the score on the research project to the test variable. Oh no, I'm going to press on score on the research project, and I'm going to move that to the test variable. All right. Then I'm going to move the type of course given, condition, right? I'm going to move that to what is called the grouping variable. All right. Now, what happens in here is once you put this into the grouping variable, it'll have 2 question marks, and this define groups will be highlighted. You'll be able to press this. So I'm going to press define groups, and I just want to confirm that group 1 is 1, which means 1 is again the integrated course, and group 2 is 2. 2 represents again for us the traditional course. Then I'm going to press continue. Now we could change these where for group 1 is 2 and group 2 is 1, but I'm going to keep it this way because it just makes more sense. I'm going to press continue. Then I'm going to make sure that there's a check mark next to estimate effect sizes. All right. And then I'm going to press OK to run the analysis. All right. And then what's going to happen is an output screen is going to appear with the output for my independent samples t-test. All right. So you should see 3 different tables. One is titled group statistics, one is titled independent samples tests, and the third is titled independent samples effect sizes. All right. And so what I'm going to do is now I need my notes section. So I'm going to come right to the icon that's right next to the notes section, and I'm going to double click that so that my notes section is going to appear. This is a very important part. Failure to have the notes section means you will get an automatic 0 on this assignment. All right. So now that I have all this information, I'm going to go to my problem, my sample problem. All right. And I'm also going to pull up my template. All right, so this is the template. These are all listed on the assignment that you have. This one is the computer assignment independent samples t-test template. All right. The first section that I'm going to put is I'm going to put the notes section in here. All right. So let's go to my data. And this is the notes section. In order to get to notes section, I'm going to put my cursor within the notes section box. I'm going to right click. I'm going to press copy. All right. And then I'm going to reopen my template, and I'm going to put in the notes section. I'm going to right click again, and I'm going to press paste as the first one, keep source formatting. Now I know for some of y'all who have a MacBook, this may look a little different. As long as you have this here, and as long as the tables look relatively similar to how they look on my computer, which is not a MacBook, this should be fine. All right. So now I have right underneath the notes section heading, I have the notes section. All right, the next thing I'm going to copy and paste over is going to be my group statistics table. Now, make sure when you are doing your assignments that the heading for your table appears on the same page as the table itself. All right, so this is not going to happen here. So I'm going to move this group statistics table down, all right, so that both can appear on the same page. All right, so let's do that. I'm looking for the table that says this titled Group Statistics Table. So let's do that. Or it's titled Group Statistics more specifically. So this is this right here. So I'm going to go into this particular table. I'm going to right click. I'm going to press copy. And I'm going to pull up my template. And I am going to right click and I'm going to press keep source formatting. All right. And then I'm going to scroll down. So now I have the table titled group statistics. And the next thing that I need to copy and paste is going to be the table that's titled independent samples test. All right. This one, you're going to have to paste this as a picture and then resize it so that it all fits on the same section. Let me show you how to do this. So I'm going to go back to my output, and this is the independent samples test table. I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to press copy. Then I am going to go back to my template, and I'm going to right click. And as you see here, if I keep source formatting, I don't see all of this table. So I'm going to go to picture. All right, press on picture. And for this one, I'm going just to make this bigger. I'm going to press the maximize button to make this bigger so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to right click into, not right click, but just click onto this table. And then I'm going to put my cursor on this corner right here. And I'm going to move it to the right, which is going to make this picture smaller so that I could eventually fit all of my data onto the same section. So now I have all the data on the same section. It goes from the score on the research project to my 95 confidence interval of the difference. All right, make sure you do that for your assignment. All right, after I do that, I am going, let's put some space between this and the other table. I am going to copy and paste the table titled Independent Samples Effect Sizes. All right, so let's restore down again. All right, let's minimize this out of the way, and let's go to Independent Samples Effect Sizes. I'm going to put my cursor within this table. I'm going to right click. I'm going to press copy. I think I got that. Press copy. All right. And I'm going to pull up my template again. And right under this heading, I'm going to press keep source, paste this keep source formatting. All right, to get that in there. All right, so now I have all of my data. All right, all the data that I need for this assignment. All right, let's see what the next thing they ask me is. All right, so I'm going to go to the actual assignment, the sample problem. I'm going to scroll down. All right, so the first couple of steps I already did. It said you enter the data for the variable student, condition, and score. All right, then use the video to generate your independent samples t-test, which we did. This is going to be the video that you use. And on a separate Word document, you're going to use the template to put the notes section in, which we already did. You're going to copy and paste the output titled Group Statistics, Independent Samples Test, and Independent Effect Sizes. All right, and then after that, under I, or the normal Roman numeral I, or 1, you're going to put in what is the null and alternative hypothesis for this research question, written as symbols. And this can be found in the PowerPoint slides for chapter 10. All right, so let's go to that chapter and see what this looks like. All right, so here is the chapter 10 slides. And I'm going to go to where it has my independent samples t-test, null and alternative hypothesis. So this is what this should look like. So for the null hypothesis, it should look like this right here. It should look like this right here for the null hypothesis. And for the alternative hypothesis, if we're doing it in statistical notation, it should look like this right here. So you want to copy and paste this into your template and make sure when you copy and paste it, it looks exactly like this. If it does not, you're going to have to Google how you get this statistical notation, this subscript, so that it looks like this. If it does not look like this, you will not get credit for this part. All right, just like I talked about in a previous video. All right, recognize that your null and alternative hypothesis are going to change with each new statistical analysis that you run. They're not going to be the same, so don't give me the one you did for the one sample t-test, because that would be incorrect. All right, so let's minimize this down there. The next thing it says, so you're going to write that in there. The next thing it says is, in the output titled independent samples t-test, use the row titled equal variance assumed, and you want to fill in the blanks. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all the information I have right here. All right, so I'm going to press copy. And I'm going to minimize this. And I'm going to bring up the template, my template once again. And I'm going to scroll down. So right here should have been where you're going to put your null and your alternative hypothesis. And then right here where it says 1, you're going to paste the write-up that you just copied. All right, let's see. Let's see if this works right here. I'm going to make this bigger again. Okay. So what I did was I copied it like I pasted it like I usually do with all the other tables. Then I pressed this right here to move this all the way back. All right. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fill in for this write-up right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to restore down again to make this a split screen. And I am going to pull up all the information that I have on how to fill in the blanks for independent samples t-test write-up. So I'm going to scroll down onto my PowerPoint, and I have a slide here that I showed you in class that shows you how to do this. So let's go. All right, so right here. Now, this example is not the example for your sample problem. It's a different sample, but you can use this to do the write-up. So let's do that. Well, it's not large enough, but let's see. Okay, let's do it like this. Let's make this a big one. All right, so in this one it says, an independent samples t-test was run to determine if there were differences between the two courses. Now this first blank says the blank course, and then you're supposed to provide the mean and the standard deviation, had higher scores than the other course, blank course, and you're going to provide their mean and standard deviation. So let's do that. So in my, when I'm doing this, in order to find which mean is higher for which course, I'm going to go right here for the table called group statistics. All right, and I'm going to look at which mean is higher than which mean. And so in this example, this mean right here in yellow is higher than this mean right here, which is in, I guess, fuchsia or pink or whatever. All right, so that mean is higher than that mean. All right, this mean corresponds to the gamer condition. This mean corresponds to the non-gamer condition. This is going to be different when we look at what it looks like for y'all, for you. And the standard deviation is right next to it. So there's the mean and the standard deviation, and for this gamer condition, and here's the mean and standard deviation for this other condition. So let's look at what this looks like for the output for this example that I created. All right, let's see. So in my example, I have the integrated course, right? And then I have the traditional course. And for me, the traditional course has a higher mean. It's 87.33 with a standard deviation of 11.015. And for the integrated course, the mean is 61 with a standard deviation of 8.465. So I'm going to just write that in there. So the traditional course all right, and I'm going to put what the mean is for the traditional course, 87.33 and 11.015. 87, let's see, 87.33 and 11.015. All right, so that is the traditional course with a mean of 87.33 and a standard deviation of 11.015 had higher scores than the other course is going to be your integrated course. All right, and this should be a capital T here. All right, and I'm going to provide their mean and standard deviation for that particular course for my example. This may be different for yours. All right, and so the mean for the integrated course is 61 and the standard deviation is 8.485. All right, okay. 8.485. All right, so I want to confirm I have that right. It's 8.485. Okay, with a mean of 61. Okay, great. All right, and I'm going to answer if the results were choose if they are either statistically significant or not statistically significant. All right, so the way I do that is this. All right, so let's look at our PowerPoint again to see what we're looking for. So I am going to look where it says significance two-tailed and look for this blue, look for this box right here. All right. Now this may appear differently on your output and on our output because this information was from an older SPSS program. So let's look at how this looks on yours. So let's pull this up. Oh well, yeah. So on yours, it's going to be called the two-sided p-value. And so under the two-sided p, I have 0.067. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to go to my PowerPoint over here. And I'm going to go to the next slide down to show you something. So they gave me a specific p-value, right? They said p equals 0.067. All right. I'm going to take that exact p-value and evaluate it if it is greater or lesser than our alpha level that we chose at the beginning of the study of 0.05. So I'm evaluating if 0.05 is greater or lesser than 0.067. And so our alpha level of 0.05 is going to be lesser than the p-value of 0.067. So if our p-value is greater, all right, than our alpha level, which it is, our p-value is greater than our alpha level, well, that means you do not have a statistically significant result. But if our p-value was less than 0.05, then that means you do have a statistically significant result. So let's go back and make that change. So for, get out of this. So for this one, right, I'm going to put that the results were not statistically significant. All right. And then it's going to ask for my 95% confidence interval. All right. First the lower, then the higher. All right. So to find that, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. And I'm going to look right here. Well, the 95% confidence interval, the difference, well, that's going to be this one right here, the lower one, and this right here, the upper one. Please keep in mind that all of your information for the independent samples test is coming from the row titled Equal Variances Assumed. All right, equal variances assumed. Do not use anything in the row for equal variances not assumed. All right, so let's put that information in there. So let's find that information. All right, so if we scroll up, right, under equal variances assumed, the 95% confidence interval is negative 56.087. All right, negative 56.087. And the upper is 3.420. All right, and so that's the 95% confidence interval. Then it's telling us, okay, well, we did a t-test. All right, what goes in here is going to be your degrees of freedom. So let's look at where you find the degrees of freedom in the PowerPoint. All right, so this, we just match the colors up. So this is the degrees of freedom. It's this and this green, and this green right here is right here. So in my example, in this example on there, was, that's what the degrees of freedom would be. Let's look at what it would be on the sample that I ran for this video. Let's scroll up, and for the degrees of freedom, we have the number 3. All right, the number 3. So degrees of freedom are 3. All right, the next thing is we are going to put in this blank right here what the t statistic value that we received from the analysis. So let's look at where that is. Where do we find that at? Well, this is this orange looking thing right here. Well, right under where it says T for T statistic, that's where that orange is at. So let's find out what that looks like on our data. So under here, under equal variances assumed, for the t-test, we have negative 2.817. So let's do it. Negative 2. What was it again? No. Negative 2. And what was that number again? Negative 2.817. All right, and so that is going to be our t-test. We may just want to move this over just a little bit. This is going to be on the same section. All right. Then it asks us what is our p-value. Well, we already found what that p-value was before to interpret if we had a statistically significant result. Let's erase this parentheses right there because that doesn't belong there. Now let's see if this all fits on the same line. Let's see. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. No. Yeah, no, it still doesn't fit on the same line. All right, so let's play with it. Put it down there. So the p-value was under where it says the two-sided p, so it was 0.067. All right. So 0.067. All right. And the last part asks us, well, what is the estimated Cohen's effect size? Well, to find that, that's not on our PowerPoint slides, but I will show you where to find that at in your data. So for your data, you're going to go to under the independent samples effect sizes, same place you went to for the one sample t-test, and go into the row that says Cohen's d, and where it says point estimate, that is going to be your effect size. So it's negative 2.571. All right. So negative 2.571. Okay. And then now we've answered the entire write-up, right? So an independent samples t-test was run to determine if there were differences between the two courses, the traditional course with a mean of 87.33 and a standard deviation of 11.015 had higher scores than the integrated course with a mean of 61 and a standard deviation of 8.485. The results were not statistically significant. The 95% confidence interval was negative 56.087 and 3.420. We ran a t-test. All right, the degrees of freedom is 3. The t-statistic was negative 2.817. The p-value was 0.067. And the estimated Cohen's d was negative 2.571. All right, and then what you're going to do is you're going to save this as the computer assignment in independent samples t-tests number 4. All right, so you go to file, you go to save, and you do all that stuff. Save it and send it to me on Canvas. You're also going to save this data. So to save this data, you're going to press File. You're going to press Save As. All right. Okay, it looks like something's a little bit frozen in here, but let's see. Okay, well, let's go to Output. You're going to press File. Okay, it looks like it's unfrozen. Okay, so for the data set, you're going to press File, and then you go to Save Data As. Then you're going to save it and do all that, and then send that to me. For the output, you're going to press File. You're going to press Save As well, and you're going to save it, and you're going to send that to me also via Canvas. All right, and that is your assignment. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll be happy to answer them in class while we watch the video. Have a great day, y'all.